That we sincerely appreciate that you have volunteered your time and to share your valuable experience of World War II. We would also like to explain the purpose of the interview for the record by reading the interview release form. The release form will give us the right to use the videotape for education purposes. The purpose of the U.S. Latino and Latina World War II Oral History Project is twofold. Number one is to salvage the stories of U.S. Latinos and Latinas of the World War II generation, and number two, to develop a structured audio, video, and photographic archive that will be accessible to scholars, journalists, and others interested in learning more about what life was like for U.S. Latinos and Latinas before, during, and after World War II. The archive will be housed at the Nettie Lee Benson Latin American Collection and at the UT Center for American History. This is at the University of Texas in Austin, Texas. So, sir, sir, please go ahead and sign this for us. Do you have it ready?
Nice.
Thank you. Great. So let's begin this interview with the pre-war period. Can you please tell us about your family and what your daily life was like?
My mother raised us. We were orphans. I don't know, it's been so long that I kind of hard to remember most of it, but just remember that we were pretty poor, but we were never hungry. We always had food. I sold newspapers. All the money went to my mother when I was a kid. Shine shoes.
How old were you when you started selling newspapers?
About 8, 9. Maybe about 8, 9 years old.
Was this here in San Diego, California?
No, it was in Arizona, in Yuma.
Is that where you were born?
No, I was raised there.
Raised there. Where were you born?
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Did your family immigrate to the U.S. or have they been here for a long time?
They've been here all their life, and their family all their life. When Arizona was Sonora or Mexico, they stayed. When it was converted to a state, so they stayed there, and everybody was just an automatic. But
so did your family get to experience the Mexican-American War? Or were they already in the States?
I don't know. I don't know whether they did or not. Probably my mother did. Yeah, I think she went through it.
Did your family have to struggle economically?
Well, being orphans, I guess it would be. It would be.
What did you do for fun as a young man growing up in Phoenix?
School. I raised in Yuma. Growing up, go to school, pick cotton in between, work on the fields.
Was this during the summer that you were?
Yeah, during the summer. Then I had a job picking up papers in the schools. I worked for the government, 25 cents an hour.
Do you remember what the name of the program was?
I don't remember what it, NYA or something like that. They used to have so many of those that I don't remember them. National Youth Administration, I think it was.
Around what time was this?
Back in the 30s.
Back in the 30s?
Yeah.
Your generation lived through the Great Depression.
Right.
Can you tell us how your family dealt with the economic despair of this period?
County help. County used to give us milk and food about once a month. They helped us. Then my brother worked for the WPA, and was it $30 a month or something? They worked, I think, 2 weeks a month, and then they would get supplies from the county.
This was doing that at Phoenix, right?
No, in Yuma.
This is Yuma. Sorry,
Yeah.
Yuma. How do your family and the battle react to the Repatriation Act of the 1930s, which wasn't partly caused by the Great Depression?
There was no problems. I don't remember any problem at all.
For example, the Mexicans during that period, because of the Great Depression, that many fled back, moved
No,
back to Mexico.
no. I was worse in Mexico. Why would they go back?
1930s.
Yeah, it was worse in Mexico than in this country.
It was worse in Mexico.
Yeah.
About your school years, where do you go to school? And
Yuma Grammar School up to the second year of high school. Then from there I went to CC camp.
so you never really got a chance to finish, graduate from high school.
I eventually graduated from San Diego High. I got a diploma from San Diego High. But after 2 years, then my brother got married, so I had to help my mother. So I went to the CC camp,
What grade were you in when you dropped?
sophomore.
You were sophomore.
In Arizona, they don't go by numbers. You know, 8th grade, and then you go to high school, which is freshman and sophomore. And here in California, they go 11, 12. You know, over there, they didn't even have a junior high. They had was grammar school and high school. That's it. I think now they do have it. I don't know.
What was school like for yourself, or in back where you attended school? What was school like?
Good. I enjoyed it. I had no problems in school.
Were people of Mexican descent allowed to speak Spanish in schools then?
Well, in a sort of way, no, but we used to talk anyway. You know, but we talked it anyway because. But I think our teachers wanted us not to talk it because they were teaching us English and they wanted us to learn English instead of Spanish. Which, like the teacher said, when you go home, you speak Spanish all day. You come to school, you speak English. Which was, I think, was pretty clear. So, but there was no complaints about it, you know.
Did the students ever get punished for speaking Spanish?
No, never. Not that I know of. I've heard of them, but I've never seen it. You know, so I can't say there was.
At the time, did you feel that was wrong, or did you ever sense
No.
that it was?
No, I didn't. In fact, I wasn't that smart to realize what was going on in the world about that. And I paid no attention to it because we never had trouble there. And that kind of prejudice, you know. I saw a lot with the black people, but not that much, you know. To really.
Did parents encourage you to speak Spanish?
Well, I only had my mother.
Or your mom?
Yeah, and she never bothered with that. But she always talked Spanish to me because she didn't talk very much English.
Did your brothers maybe get a better education than you got?
No,
They,
no. They were older. They didn't. I got a couple of older brothers that they were salespeople, you know. But then they left years ago. And my other brothers, one drowned, and the other one, Charlie, he's the oldest. He worked in the fields. You know, we all did. He went. I don't remember whether he graduated or not. I know he went to high school. 1 year anyway.
did your mom also work in the fields?
My mom, no. She, I think she, in those days, there used to be a word in Spanish called abonados. What that was is the people that were working, grown-ups that were working, they would feed them at noon, lunch, and sometimes dinner. And they would get paid so much, you know, a week. And that's what they call abonados then. And I don't know if you ever heard the word, but that's what my mother used to do. And besides, and she used to wash clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she managed. But don't ever remember her having trouble.
Was your school segregated?
No, never.
What was the student population like?
If they had, I think if they had 10,000, it was overpopulated then.
Was it mixed, for example, blacks, Mexicans, whites?
Mostly Mexicans and Indians. It was split Indians and Mexicans. It was a lot of güeros, but then it was hard to tell the difference sometimes. You know, because everybody had mixed names. Uh, had a bunch of Higgins that were related to me, and Smiths. So pretty hard.
So did, being that your school is predominantly, say Mexican and Native American, did, did you ever notice that the white kids attended different schools, better schools maybe, for example?
Nope, they had attended the same school. Of course, they didn't last long. I mean, they'd go to school to about third grade and then quit or disappear. I never saw them. With the exception of a couple that I know real well.
And what was going on in the country and in your community when you were growing up? Any particular historical events and experiences, for example?
Nothing.
Um, you know that, for example,
The railroad.
the railroad.
The railroad, yeah, well, I worked for the railroad too. Well, this was a railroad town. And at one time it was a territorial federal prison. But that was many years before my time. But it was a federal prison and the railroad company came through there, and that's what the majority of the people that got the good job worked in the railroad. And that was a good job.
Which were
Southern Pacific.
Southern Pacific
Yeah.
Railroad. I heard of that railroad. Now, did Mexicans and whites get equal opportunities working for the railroad?
Yeah. Well, I did, maybe because my brother was a boss. I had a brother that worked for the railroad. He was a foreman there.
He was a foreman.
Yeah.
What did you do for the railroad?
I was a car oiler and then electrician's helper. Clean light bulbs.
So do you think the railroad changed or helped your community economically?
Yeah, the railroad, then the railroad went dead. See, they made it, they invented where the wheels didn't have to be oiled anymore between big cities. Like a run from Phoenix to Los Angeles didn't have to oil the wheels because they have an automatic oiler. And before the trains would come over and we'd go down the line oiling the cars, the wheels, and they lost a lot of that. They still go through there, but not like they didn't stop like they used to, you know. It was a railroad center, you know. In fact, they had a roundhouse there too, but that went dead. But now they got a big military base there. In fact, all three of them, Army, Navy, and Marines, they're there.
So, by the time you were 18, had you already moved to San Diego, or were you still there? And
I was in the Army.
you had gone to the
By
Army?
17, I was already in there. Came out of CC camp.
Okay. So prior to joining the forces, you served in the civilian
Civilian
Corps?
Conservation Corps.
How did that help you financially?
You had to get, let me see, the whole total was $30. My mother used to get, we kept 17 and the rest went to my mother. That's the way the law was made. With the $7, just give you enough to buy your Bull Durham tobacco and whatever you need for the month. It had to last you the whole month.
So, did your family, was that one of the Roosevelt's New Deal programs to kind of offset the depression?
Yeah. CMTC, Citizen Military Training, CCC Camp, which is Civilian Conservation Corps, NYA, WPA. I think they call them the New Deal or something.
Great. So was that like your full-time job?
To help
So
poor families.
you drop out of high school?
Well, I didn't drop it because to help my mother.
You had to stop.
Yeah. I still graduated
Still graduate later on.
later on. I went to school while I was in the service too. A lot of schools.
By the 1940s, were you already in the service by that time?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you recall about the time when you were when World War II started, which started in 1939, rest in 1940.
The war, when it started, I was already in the army. Caught me by surprise.
Where was you stationed?
Right here at Rosecrans.
And you went serving in what armed forces?
I was at Fort Rosecrans in 40. Then in 41, when the draft started, I was a drill instructor at Camp Callan, which is where the golf course is at. And then I was eating too much dust, so I transferred to the Strand. Tent City, they call it Tent City on the Strand.
Where's this?
Military base, Coast Artillery.
What city is this?
The Strand, between Coronado and,
Okay.
and Imperial Beach.
Okay, that was called the Strand there?
We call it Strand.
What was it like where you were stationed?
Boring.
Boring?
Before the war or when it war was declared?
Before the war. And how do you get along with other men in your division?
Got along pretty good. I had a lot of friends. Never had trouble.
Was your division predominantly Mexican or Americans and Mexican?
Mixed. It was a lot of mixed. Had the draftees from LA, there was a lot of Mexicans, Americans of Mexican descent. They came down. I used to instruct. I was their DI. In fact, at the Strand we had a whole bunch of them. It got so boring that I joined the paratroopers. And not only that, $50 more made a hero out of me.
Would you say that having grown up in Arizona and coming down to San Diego, did you
I already knew San Diego
you knew San Diego
when I was little. When I came with people down here, because one of my brothers was already living here. He was in a shrimp business, I think, down in Calexico in Mexico County. It was big families from National City, Camachos.
Where were you when the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor occurred?
Rosecrans.
You were stationed at Rosecrans.
Stationed right there in Fort Rosecrans.
What was the reaction?
Well, I was laying there with a big hangover, and somebody went by and threw a bandolier of ammo at me. And somebody hollered, "They're coming." So we went up to the point with the machine guns. Loaded up. We never moved from there for 30 days. We stayed there. They used to bring the chow to us.
What was the general attitude of people and what was happening around the community?
I was a little excited.
Excited, alarmed?
Not too much alarm. And after a while, after a week or so, nobody showed up. Then it started to get boring. You're sitting around waiting for some action and no action. So
Did you guys at one point feel that maybe the Japanese would
they were coming.
They were coming?
They were going to come. They just didn't succeed in what they were planning. I think the closest they came was the Aleutians in Alaska, and they got stopped there.
So after attacking Pearl Harbor, they wanted to continue down to California?
Well, I don't know. I think if they'd have had a chance, they would have. I don't think they didn't get the carriers, and that's what stopped them. Otherwise, they would have tried to come over to the coast, but they didn't. It was out of the question.
Rosecrans was prepared already at that point in time?
We were not prepared for any war.
No war whatsoever?
No, we didn't. We have antiquated equipment from World War I. Our rifles were 30-06s from World War I. We had guns had the 155s. They were tractor drawn, which they were from World War I. Just about everything was from World War I. We lucked out, I guess.
After the attack, did you feel that it was your responsibility to fight in the war?
Well, that's what I was getting paid for. I didn't get drafted, so I joined, so I'm not complaining. I had to go.
And so you went voluntarily?
Yeah, there was no draft when I went. There was about 12 of us went in.
Being of Mexican descent, did you feel that it was a war that Mexicans had to fight?
Well, if I was in Mexico, I'd say no, but I'm in the United States. I'm a U.S. citizen. That's my business. It's part of mine.
Did you feel treated as a U.S. citizen at that, or did you feel
No,
that you
never
were?
thought about nothing like that.
You never,
No,
never crossed your mind.
never crossed my mind. Not that way. There's too many good friends in the service to be worried about anything else.
Right, but I guess my question is, when you were growing up and prior to going to the service, did you feel that you were treated as a American
Nope,
citizen?
no,
Did that come?
nothing. I had no ill feeling, no nothing that I could think of. But I learned prejudice when I went to the CC camp. When I first went to the CC camp, I saw it.
Can you elaborate?
Well, it wasn't really people from Arizona or California. It was the people from Texas. See, we had barracks, two or three on each side of the compound. And on one side would have all Mexicans, and the other side would be all Texans, or all Oklahoma, or all mixed. I was in a mixed barrack. And the guys from Texas were always fighting the Mexicans. But they're from California, Arizona, But it wasn't nothing big, what it was then in those times. We'll just go out there. And a lot of times the captain would come out, and if there was any kind of difficulty, he put the gloves on you and let you settle it down with gloves.
Really?
Yeah. So really, but other than that, they work together. They'd be fighting one night in the morning, they go out there to work together, just like brothers and sisters.
At the CC camp, were Mexicans? Would you say that Mexicans were treated
Just as
about the
equal as
same
anybody.
as anybody else?
Yep. It was military. What it was really military because you had retreat. You had to get up for roll call in the morning. Same as Army. You marched. You had to get in line for everything. It was just good food, good everything in there. And all your captains were West Pointers.
After the war had started, from what city did you and your division departed from to go overseas?
We went from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is Fayetteville. We went from there to Camp Edwards, Massachusetts, and then from there we waited for a boat.
How long were you stationed there?
In Camp Edwards, a couple of days only. At Fort Bragg, I was stationed there, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months.
And what was going on while you were there?
Yeah, we were training to go.
You were training?
We were training for the war.
Any specific type of training that you guys?
Infantry and airborne artillery, airborne everything. We had us jumping pretty steady, and then one day they came by and they had just formed 2 divisions, which I was in one of them, and all the big shots from Washington came over from Washington. They selected my division to go overseas first.
You remember the people that came down?
Yeah, it was Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, all the big generals like Marshall.
They actually went to the.
They went down to the fort to watch them, to see the divisions train, So they selected my division. So, lo and behold, here we go. We were on our way. Nobody knew where we were going.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Churchill?
No. No. I think, if I recall, I saw them in North Africa when they were got together. They were forming the invasion of Italy. Mm-hmm. And I think we were guarding the place where they showed up. Anytime them guys showed up, you had the whole division guarding that whole area. You couldn't get within 5 miles of them. Mm-hmm. And like I say, we went across in 2 ships. One was the George Washington, the other was the Monterey. Mm-hmm. On a convoy.
And where do you guys headed to?
Casablanca.
Casablanca. Who was your commanding general at the time?
My colonel was Tucker. The general was Ridgway.
Did they remain your generals?
The general's in charge of the division, and the colonel's in charge of a regiment, combat team, which is a infantry regiment and artillery batteries and engineer company.
How did the high chain of command treated Mexican Americans? And first of all, actually, were there a lot of Mexican Americans in your division?
Yeah, couldn't tell the difference.
Could you tell the difference?
No, everybody was equal.
And blacks and whites.
There were no blacks.
There were no blacks.
No blacks. Blacks were not allowed in the war, in the American Army then, not till after the war ended. They had their own outfits. They had one black division in Italy, the 92nd Division, which was all black. Mm-hmm. And then you had a private Air Force.
Were they fighting under the U.S. Command?
Yeah.
But they were just separate from the...
I don't know what deal. I mean, I paid no attention then, but I knew that they weren't allowed.
Did it ever cross your mind why? Did you
I did, but I never bothered to, with it. I never bothered with it. I never gave it a big thought. Till after the war, I got to thinking, well, I wonder why they do that. But it was not for me to think about it. That's the problem between the Yankees and the Southern rebels, not California.
Who was the commanding general of the Northwest African Theater operations?
Well, when they first started, there was Eisenhower. Eisenhower and Patton, and that's it. And then when their change of command were changing after the battles of Africa, Eisenhower went to England to take over the whole thing. Eisenhower was in charge of the invasion in Africa. And under him, he had Bradley and Patton, and Clark. And Patton was in charge of the 7th Army, which was the one in Africa. Or 5th Army, I don't recall.
Who was what was the name of the operation? The West African operation.
And I just saw it and I forgot what they called it. I don't remember. I don't know.
Was it Torch? Was it Torch?
I don't remember. It sounded but I don't. When we landed, we had nothing to do with that. We paid no attention to it. All we were worried about is where we're gonna go.
So what was your first major battle when you were actually overseas already?
The first little was when we were looking for German paratroopers in Africa. We never found any. But then the Germans retreated and left Africa.
What was the purpose of what were
the Germans were jumping paratroopers to cut up lines and blow up bridges and stuff like that. So we went looking for them. We couldn't find any, so we went back to the sacred city of Cairo, and that's where we got our transports and flew to Sicily for the invasion, and that's where I got shot down.
What year was this?
43.
Can you elaborate
Well,
how you got shot and what was
we were coming in. What happened? There was I don't know for sure. I mean, nobody ever knew what happened, but I think the Germans were strafing the Americans landing, and they were strafing the Navy. And we came in between them. But the Navy was shooting at us, and so was the Army. So we got shot by 3 people, the Navy, the Army, and the Germans. And they shot. In my outfit, 27 planes went down in flames. And mine got hit.
Was that actually an Allied mistake?
Well, I don't know if it's a mistake or not, but it shouldn't have happened like it did, but it did. I mean, those things happen in war. There's a lot of confusion in war. So when I got hit, When the plane on my right and the plane on my left, I saw them go down in flame. They hit me with just one big ball of fire. Then when I was standing there on the plane, I was on the stick. I was number one, and I don't know who it was, but somebody put a whole bunch of bullet holes in the bottom and to the top too. It didn't touch any of us. How I don't know. So we hollered and get out of here. So we all got out of the plane. Well, the plane, unless we saw the plane, he was going in smoke and we could see him. But I hear later that he made it. He made it back to Africa.
So you parachuted,
We jumped.
you jumped.
We jumped. It was the plane was coming down so low. It was, I think it was about, I'd say about 200 feet, 250. Because I only made one oscillation and I ran into a tree. Came in like a sack of potato. And I just laid there, nobody around.
You were hit already.
No, I hit the tree. No, hell, we were riddled to beat hell.
But at that point, have you gotten shot already?
No,
No.
no.
So that was not really the when you really came face to face with the enemy at all.
They were shooting. What do you mean, face to face? What do you think them guys were shooting at?
Was that the closest you got to the coming face to face with the enemy?
No, we came closer than that. But that was when we come in as we got shot down. And then we were behind the German lines all that time. They're chasing the hell out of us.
So you're in German territory?
Yeah, we're behind the Germans. They were hunting for us, and we were hunting for them.
Do you remember? Do you remember the events that took place?
No. I remember, but I wouldn't talk about it too much. The only time I can tell you, one time with me and this buddy of mine were in a tomato field, we were getting tomatoes to make salad. And some snipers was shooting at us, and he was putting bullets between our legs, and we were running like the devil, but the guy kept chasing us. I think he was too far, that's why he didn't get us. And one guy would run, and the other guy would duck and look and see where the puff would come from, because you can see the puff of a rifle. And then then you holler, okay, it's your turn, so you get up and run, and then the guy would shoot, and then you'd be looking to see if you could see it. We never could spot him.
Shoot him back.
Well, how we're going to shoot at? Unless you spot the
If you
spot.
spot him, is that
If we're going to spot the puff, we're going to shoot at him, yeah. But we couldn't spot him. So we got out of his range,
What was your major battle?
Several of them.
Would you
Sicily, Gala,
tell us about Sicily?
Palermo, no. I can't talk to you about people like that. Salerno, Altavilla, I can name you hundreds of them. Naples, the meanest fight we had really, I think, was Venafro. Venafro, Cali, and Anzio. We went the invasion of Anzio. And we stayed there quite a while. Well, we spent a year in Italy. They pulled the division out, sent them to England, and left my regiment in Italy. And this is where we lost a lot of men in the front line. And that was about it.
Was that when you got shot?
No, I got hurt when I got shot down. Hit my back, crushed it with I was too low. I came backwards. I ran into an olive tree, but it didn't hurt then until about 30 days later, after the campaign was over. I was laying down in the foxhole and I couldn't bend, and I couldn't figure it out. So they carried me out in a stretcher, sent me back to Africa.
This was in 1945 already, before the war.
44.
It was still 44.
Yeah. 45, we were in France. And then that's when after the war ended, I flew from Berlin to Marseille to Casablanca, to South America, South Africa, South America, back to the States.
Is it hard for you to talk about your war experiences, or is it something that
Yeah.
all of the
Some people can't talk about it.
it's really hard to talk about?
Yeah, it hurts. But you start remembering your friends. 'Cause I lost. Well, I just come back from North Carolina, and I think of the old guys, I think there was only 4 of us. and one got his leg missing, and the other one, Sam and I are the only ones. Sam McGee he's from Alabama. He's the only healthy guy like me. But the other two, are not very. They've been dying pretty fast, and of course a lot of them got killed.
Did any of your friends get killed?
Yeah, a lot of them. Like I say, I lost a whole bunch of them in the invasion.
That you grew up with?
No, with the guys that I grew up, no. One just died here a couple of years ago. A buddy of mine, they went in. And two of them died. Oh, three of them died already. Come to think of it, I'm the only one, I think, alive. That went in with me when I went in 1940.
What was your names?
One was named George Leroy. And he was Mexican-American. He was Indian. Daniel Valenzuela. And Joe Rodriguez. And who was the other one? George Leroy, Daniel Valenzuela. They were from my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
They're all dead.
You mentioned that you had or fought a lot of big battles.
Yeah.
And what went through your mind when you were fighting?
Well, when you see a dead cadaver, a lot of things go through your mind. You hate to be laying right there like that guy. I mean, you know, you can visualize yourself laying down like him. Even your own friends, you know. It's hard. Damn hard. Once you smell a dead cadaver, you don't never forget it. The human being stinks worse than a dead dog.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Did many of these encounters ever make you feel that this might be the end of your
I was always thinking that.
You're always thinking this might be the last battle.
Scared shitless.
And your family was back home. Were you married at that point?
Yeah. Well, back home, a couple of times they lost me, I guess. I mean, they didn't know what was going on. There's a letter, I can't find it, it's in a bunch of papers, that I wrote my wife right after the invasion that escaped the censor takers. When my wife used to get a letter, it looked like a crossword puzzle cut up. So they were censored, you know. You couldn't say where you was at or what you were doing or what.
For what reason? Why were they censoring all that?
Because the Germans would copy them letters and say where you're at. And figured out where the company's at, where the battery, the division's at.
Now, how were they copying these letters? Were you writing, or how were you communicating back to your wife?
Well, you write a letter to your wife. And in one letter I wrote when the invasion of Sicily, I explained, I put in the whole war. Evidently the censor, the lieutenant that was censoring didn't see it, or he just shoved that right through and he got too lazy. Mm-hmm. But all the other letters, I mean, they would just cut up, when they had scissors, you know, you just cut up the words where they mentioned the area, they cut that off. Or they mentioned a hint, you know, they'd cut that off. So you can see, love you and bye, and that's about it.
So, before those letters got out back home, the commander or whoever read
the letters had to go through a censor. Yeah. First, the one in your company or your battery, either way. And then it would go out to the battalion censor. And they would pick out a letter and they'd open it up. They'd cut the hell out of them.
So there was...
you couldn't tell where you was at.
They were taking precautions that in case a mail carrier got caught by the...
Could be a mail carrier, could be a German spy or anybody that, you know, anybody opened it up, couldn't see nothing. What the hell is he looking for? Mm-hmm. No, there was nothing there.
So that letter reached your wife and you explained to her?
Then, well, the only thing your wife could tell, you're still alive when you got the letter. Mm-hmm. And what we had what they call victory letters. Mm-hmm. And they were a little card, and they opened up and they closed. They were real simple. They were already stamped. You need a stamp. And they were called victory letters. And you open it up and you put the address in the front and you write your letter home. And then it was real easy for the censor. They just open it up, go through it, and just cut whatever they didn't want. And they fold it right back and send it in. By the time you arrive, you get a new piece of paper, but no bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. What do you do, or how do you cope with your reality on a daily basis, or when you're out there fighting behind the lines?
Well, we do, in a way, one way or the other. You're either gonna get killed or be taken a prisoner of war. There was no time limit for us. We had to. The war ended, then it was the end for us. We were there until the end of the war. There were no.
So you have no mechanisms to cope with your.
No, you just say, well, you're here. And that, I guess this is it.
Maybe did you ever have a time to think about it?
No,
It was just day in day out war.
it's just trying to figure it out, trying to stay alive.
What was your overall perception of the Mexican soldier fighting?
Same as anybody else. I have no. Uh, some of them, I guess, they were crazy. I know, but I myself think that it's the individual. Race got nothing to do with hero. I don't think. You either got it or you don't have it, and you got to be at the right place at the right time to be a hero. You know, because I know a guy. He was a German Jew. That he should have been. The guy was extraordinary. Didn't understand the guy. He could talk German fluent. He was born in Germany. And he talked German fluent, and he traveled among the Germans all the time. And they didn't know it. When he got tired of them, he'd kill them.
Was he fighting for the Allies?
Yeah, for America, in the United States. He was
How do you either meet this guy, or how do you run across?
We knew he was going up there. He belonged to our outfit. When the guys used to tell him, he said, one of these days they're going to get you. He finally got it in Holland.
They got him?
Well, he went out, but he never came back. So all you consider is lost in action. But he started doing that when he was in Anzio. He'd walk around the German lines all the time. He would be there for days. He'd sit down to eat lunch with them. He knew all the German officers. He'd go up there, he'd come back and tell us what's going on over there. He knew where everything was at. Now, a guy like that, you see, I think his brother got killed. You know, he was a Jew, and he killed his brother. I forget, he was a real long German name. In fact, I got it in the book there. And he started coming into prominence in Anzio. He was always behind the German lines. He used to go up there, and on one occasion, there was one of the guys, he was of Mexican descent. He was Mexican. He was with him one time. And the way I hear it, you know. And there was a medic and this Mexican American and him. And they were bringing this prisoner to interrogate him. And he was busy for something, and he told the Mexican to put the bayonet on him to watch him, you know. And no, he would give it to the medic. Well, the medic, being a non-fighter, he didn't know, you know. So the German shot the medic, and the Mexican shoved the bayonet up his throat, killed him right there. But the medic came through, you know, he got wounded, but then the Mexican, they came across. But the guy always running behind the German line. Of course, he talked German fluent.
So he was raised in the States?
He was born in Germany and raised a little, but he came to the United States as a young kid, him and his brother. I think his brother got killed. And he was trying to get even. And there was guys like that. Yeah, unbelievable.
One more question. So being Mexican, you felt that you didn't feel that you have to. Did you feel you have to be loyal to a country that maybe at some point in time was not treating Mexicans, or was treating Mexicans as second class citizens?
Well, we represent the United States. You're right. Mm-hmm. But really, if it come to face reality, we were fighting for our life.
Mm-hmm.
We're not bringing any nationality into the fact. We just had to go fight for my country. And but the main thing, once we got there, we're fighting for survival. It wasn't what the hell you were. It made no difference what you were, you know. And you had to depend on your buddies, no matter what he was. And if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't last long, because he's watching your back. 'Cause
What did the term infantry mean to you when you were fighting?
hell,
Why?
it's hell, because it's hell. It is hell.
Did you have a? That was your definition for the definition of infantry.
That's all I can say. Is the damn thing is just. In some places like Anzio, there was the infantry or artillery or the quartermaster were not safe because everything was open to the Germans. They were up on the heights, and they could sit down and they could shoot at anybody. It didn't make no difference where you was at, what you was at, ships or otherwise. They were looking right down our throat. In the daytime, we never moved. We stayed in a foxhole. Because if you moved, they'd shoot you. With an 88, they could see everything moving.
So it's only at night when.
At night, it's when everybody come out like a bunch of rats. Go up to get your rations for the day. Cigarettes, move around, clean up, or do what you're going to have to do. And
Where were you when? Where were you stationed when the war was over?
I was coming home on points. I was in Marseille. So waiting for a plane to come home.
So you were not fighting when the war was over?
No,
It's not because
I was through. I was through. The points system came out. I was married. I'd been there almost 3 years, and I had one kid, so I had a lot of points.
Was that the point system?
There was a point system. The more points you had, the quicker you went home.
How do you accumulate points?
I don't recall how. I think 1 point per year, 2 points for married, 3 points for each kid, or I don't know. But mine ended up with, I think I ended up with 120, I think, points or something.
How many points did you have to accumulate?
I don't remember so far back. All I knew is I was going home, and the hell with the points.
Who told you that the war was over or had ended?
Oh well, the army, they know. You know everything right off the bat. Rumors, and oh, it came out in the paper. No, and radio and telephone.
Okay. Did you believe it at that point?
Well, we knew the war was over in Germany. Oh, we knew that it was over. There was nobody else left. There were no more Germans left.
What was the reaction of your fellow comrades, your friends, your buddy that you fought with? Do you remember their reaction to when they heard the news also?
Happy.
They were
Happy. But don't forget that we still had another war. Japan.
Japan.
So we didn't let up yet. I mean, we still have to, until the other one was over, then we celebrated, yeah,
So
naturally.
you got back in 44?
No, I didn't get back till 45.
Where do you arrive here in San Diego?
No, Miami, Florida,
Miami, then you came
by train,
by train to San Diego?
yeah, to L.A.
Was this special trips for soldiers only?
The one I had was a special. We went on a tour. We went from Marseille to Casablanca to South Africa, to South America, and then to Florida. Then the train. Camp Blenheim, Florida.
Why did you pass through all those places to pick up more soldiers?
No, we were just flying. And we'd stop and look at the country, and that's it. That was all.
Special treat.
Kind of a treat.
Were you discharged right away when you came?
Yeah.
Right
Oh, yeah.
away? And the U.S. was still fighting in Japan.
Yeah.
Was still fighting in Japan.
Well, you see, I enlisted for 3 years. My enlistment was 3 years
Mhm.
when I went in 1940.
Mhm.
But when the war started, it's for the duration of the war. See, my 3-year enlistment was all over with. So I came home. So, my 3 years, hey, what am I doing? I already got 2 years over my enlistment.
Mhm.
So they discharged me.
How did the American public react to the coming back of a soldier?
I don't know, because I wasn't here.
When you got back, was there any public waiting for the soldiers to come back?
No, just my mother and my sisters. They were happy to see me.
So
No,
you were released at the train station here in San Diego?
I was going on a train. I went through Yuma there, and my brother-in-law was there, and he loaned me his car, and we were going to stay there about 15, 20 minutes. So I went to see my mother and my sister, and they were all happy to see me. They didn't know it. I was home. I surprised them.
But they knew you were in a war.
Well, they knew it. I had made it. They thought that I had been wounded or something, but I was already on my way home.
But you were wounded. I mean.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they didn't know. They never heard from me anymore. So they were worried about me being dead. There's so many guys getting killed, you know.
Mhm.
So then I went to what the hell in L.A. Fort, that army base in L.A.
Mhm. How did the war experience change you and your perception of life in the world? Maybe. Did the war? Would you say that the war transformed you?
Changed a lot. Yes, I think so.
And how?
I don't know. Appreciate life a little more. Uh, yeah, appreciative of life and more respect to my people. But it was it was hard. It was hard. The first 6 months it was hard. There was no noise. It was too quiet. Couldn't figure it out. What was going on?
Did you have a hard time adjusting?
Hard time converting to civilian life. I was used to somebody trying to kill me. And you're over here and you're all eyes looking around to see if you're safe or not. And there was nothing there.
So it took a while to
Took a while, yeah.
adjust.
It's an adjustment. It's mostly in your mind. You gotta figure it out in your mind for yourself. Nobody can help you.
Did you have a lot of nightmares, for example?
I used to. I used to have them. I have them yet, occasionally, very rare though. I'll have a nightmare dream, you know, but not no more.
Of the war.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It seems like it's something that never leaves the mind, huh?
It stays there.
You can.
It stays there.
It stays there. In your opinion, were there any changes in the lives of Mexican Americans in decades of World War II?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of changes. I guess they're starting to more respect for the Mexican Americans.
You think society, the mainstream
The society, the mainstream, I think, they knew that what Mexicans they had in this country, found out that they were just as good of fighters as anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and they proved that.
Did you yourself face any difficulties in your work, business, or career, either because you were Mexican?
Not because of that. I think of other things.
Yeah.
But there was other things besides that. But in my life, I've never, very little, not even enough for me to talk about.
Were racial conflicts about the same as they have been prior to the war
I think it's better.
and better?
I mean, it didn't get worse, but it got better. Improvement. There's a lot of improvement on that.
And did you yourself get involved with any organizations that were concerned
No,
with supporting the
never had no
African
problem.
Americans? Did you join any organizations?
The
in
Eagles,
Quebec?
just fraternal Eagles, the Eagles and stuff like that.
What did the Eagles do? Or what was the purpose of that?
Well, they help polio and stuff like that, sicknesses, you know. Yeah. But I never did really until when I was in Yuma, I went to work for the Bureau, and I didn't belong to any organization. Really, I never thought of it. When you're young, you don't think about that.
Did you join Don Diego's when Don Diego's opened?
I'm one of the starters. We didn't join it.
So that
We made it.
you made Don Diego's.
Yeah.
When was that started? Or when did you guys?
Well, we had a lot of arguments with other organizations here, Veterans of Foreign Wars and American Legion. So we got to thinking, why argue with these people? Why don't we start one, start our own? And this is what we did. And at first, a lot of the guys decided to make it all Mexican, but then you can't do it. That's illegal because it can't be done.
So American? You did not decide to mention. You did not join American Legion because.
No, only thing I ever joined with the Eagles. And the only reason I joined them because I used to get a glass of beer for a nickel.
In your opinion, were there more opportunities for Mexicans after the World War II?
Definitely.
And did you see an overall change in society?
Yes, because of the educational. If the guy didn't want you in a place, you went down and go to school. I know a guy, one guy, Negrete, one of the Negrete, Angel, it's the other brother. They said he went to the VA after his education as a plumber, and he went to a big plumbing company, and he put in for it. They told him to go down there, they're going to get hired. And he sat in the office all day, and they never called him. So he went back to the VA office, and they told him, didn't you go down there to that company? And he said, yeah. I sat there all day, nobody called me. People came in and out, they ignored me. So the guy at the VA called the company. Says, you're gonna get blackballed by the Veterans Administration. They called Angel. They laid out the carpet for him. They hired him on the spot. So that proves that definitely there was a lot of.
Did you in your opinion, did you maybe feel that World War II veterans of Mexican descent, the ones who went out there and fought and came back to the barrio, for example, Barrio Logan or Logan Heights, were they responsible for the changes or the social consciousness that started to develop?
I think World War II veterans, what changes we have right now amongst even the Americans of Mexican descent, I think they created a lot of change. Maybe some didn't, some overdid it, some didn't, but most of the guys that came back, they had an opportunity to go to school, which they didn't have when they were doing depression. They couldn't afford it. They all went to school, changed things around. They got good jobs. But I think we were too soft with our kids. That's why we're having trouble now, I think.
Why?
Oh, I don't know, our kids, well, nowadays kids don't know what a depression is. They don't know what starving is. So they're ignorant of those facts. And I try to teach my kids that. But The went in once, come out the other ear. So I said, well, nothing you can do about it now. I think we were soft with our kids. But
Do you think that the youth and the youth of today have better opportunities?
they're better educated, I think. Because I guess opportunities are there for education right now. Not like we did. See, when I went to high school, even in the eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, I had to buy my own books. Couldn't afford to buy the books. And in those days, which, a book that cost $2, I could buy a pair of tennis shoes for $1.
And this was in a different state, right?
Yeah, and for no, I don't know, in California, I think high school you had to buy your own books too. So even going to high school in them days, it cost you money. Nowadays you don't. They furnish you with books and everything, even papers and pens.
To the youth of today and future generations to come, what message or advice will you give
Get educated.
to this future generation and future one?
Get you educated. Educate yourself. You got a good opportunity for education. There's a lot of good schools and many schools now. In my time, there was no college where I come from. Now there's colleges there. Even in the little towns, they got junior colleges. They got colleges. And the more education you get, the better you're off.
Did you get an opportunity to go to college when you came back to the war?
Yeah, I went. I went 2 years. But then I had a good job, so I didn't have to worry about any more schooling. So if I had to, I would have kept on going. There was no problem. Night school.
Great. Well, once again, Mr. Salmon, we want to thank you for this great interview.
Okay.
And we really greatly appreciate your
Okay.
time. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Okay.